The Lagos sun was a merciless, hammering thing on the day my father, Papa Chidi, brought the leopard into our home. I remember the air, thick with the smell of dust and impending rain, and the strange, sweet sharp scent of her perfume that cut through it all like a knife. Her name was Madam Kemi, and she arrived with a flourish, a symphony of expensive Ankara fabric and gold jewelry that jangled with every calculated step. Behind her, peering from the fold of her gown with eyes like sharp, curious crows, were her two children, Tunde and Funke. I, Ekene, was 12. They were 12 and 11. We were to be siblings. Ekene, come and greet your new mother, Papa Chidi said, his voice a blend of pride and a nervousness I had never heard before. He was a good man, my papa, a successful importer of motor parts with a heart too softened by loneliness after my mother's passing 5 years before. He saw a beautiful, devout woman who sang in the church choir. I, even at 12, saw the cold calculation in her eyes as they swept over our fine 3-bedroom flat in Surulere, assessing the value of the furniture, the size of the television, the future she could mine from it. Good afternoon, Ma, I mumbled, my eyes on the gleaming marble floor. Her hand, cold and heavy with rings, cupped my chin, forcing my gaze up. Look at this fine boy, she could, but her eyes didn't crinkle with warmth. They were flat, like a lizard's. Don't worry. I will take care of you like the hen that covers her chicks. The leopard does not cover chicks, it eats them. I learned this truth before the first week was out. The transformation was swift and brutal. Papa Chidi, eager to please his new, young wife, began traveling more for business. To give you all a better life, he'd say, kissing my forehead, his suitcase full of samples. The moment his car pulled away, Madam Kemi's smile would vanish, replaced by a mask of cold authority. My room, the one that had been my sanctuary with posters of Konyo Nwankwo and the Super Eagles, was given to Tunde. Boys should stay together, Madam Kemi declared. It will build brotherhood. I was moved to a stuffy, windowless storage room at the back of the flat, my mattress on the floor beside boxes of old papers and a persistent smell of damp. Tunde and Funke laughed as I dragged my few belongings across the corridor. Go and be king of your palace, bush boy, Tunde sneered. He was a carbon copy of his mother, handsome, with a cruel twist to his lips. The chores became my birthright. Before school, I had to fetch water from the compound's tank, as Madam claimed the pump, strain the generator, mop the entire house, and prepare breakfast. Tunde and Funke lounged, still in their pajamas, watching cartoons. After school, while they went for extra lessons or visited friends, I had to wash mountains of dishes, scrub toilets, and press their school uniforms with a heavy iron filled with coals. My own uniform was always the last to be washed, often still damp and smelling of mildew in the morning. Ekene, you lazy child. Is this how you want to live? Madam Kemi's voice became the soundtrack of my life, sharp and accusing. She wielded proverbs like weapons. A child who says his mother will not sleep, he himself will not sleep. You want to trouble me? You will know trouble. The food was the cruelest theater. At dinner, a steaming pot of jollof rice with chicken would sit in the middle. Madam Kemi would serve Papa Chidi heaping portions, then Tunde and Funke, their plates laden with choice pieces of meat. By the time she got to me, she would scoop the burnt bottom of the pot rice, the cocoa, and place a single, bony wing on top. Ekene is watching his weight, she would tell my father with a sugary smile. Too much meat is not good for growing boys, it makes them aggressive. Isn't that so, my son? Papa Chidi, tired and trusting, would only nod. Listen to your mother, Ekene. She knows best. If I dared to look hungrily at the food, Tunde would kick me under the table. Funke, more subtle, would widen her eyes and say, Mommy, is Ekene not feeling well? He looks like he's going to cry. The beatings were not the loud, dramatic affairs of Nollywood villains. They were quiet, efficient, and hidden. A sharp pinch that left a bruise on the inner arm where no one would see. A vicious twist of the ear. The sting of a wooden spoon across the back of my thighs when I was slow to bring her tea. She always did it when Papa was in the shower or on a phone call, her face a terrifying calm. "If you tell your father," she whispered once, her breath hot in my ear as she dug her nails into my shoulder, "he will not believe you. And then, my son, you will see what real suffering is. I will make you wish your dead mother had taken you with her." The words were a poison that seeped into my soul. I stopped talking. I became a ghost in my own home, moving from school to my chores to my cupboard room, speaking only when spoken to, my eyes perpetually downcast. At school, my grades, once excellent, began to plummet. The teacher, Mrs. Okonkwo, a woman with kind eyes, pulled me aside. "Ekene, what is happening at home? You are fading away." But I just shook my head. The fear was a cage. Tunde and Funke, emboldened, extended their torment to school. They spread rumors that I had a skin disease, that I stole, that my father had married their mother to save me from my own filth. I had no friends. I was an island of misery. The first major showdown came during the Parents-Teacher Association meeting. Papa Chidi was away in Onitsha. Madam Kemi went, dressed in her finest, representing me. She returned like a storm. She slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. "You goat," she screeched, marching towards me as I scrubbed the kitchen floor. "You have disgraced me." Bringing home report card full of red. "Do you think your father's money is for you to waste? You are a cursed seed." She grabbed the wet scrubbing brush from my hand and struck me across the face with the wooden back. Pain exploded in my cheek. Tunde and Funke watched from the doorway, eating groundnuts, their faces alight with glee. "From today," she decreed, her chest heaving, "you will not go to that expensive school again. You will go to the public school down the road. Tunde and Funke will continue in their school. We must save money you are wasting." It was a masterstroke. Not only did it punish me, it cemented my lower status, separating me from the only environment where I had a shred of identity. At the public school, my worn uniform and quiet demeanor made me a target for bullies. I was truly alone. The injustice festered inside me, a hot, silent core. I began to observe Madam Kemi like a spy behind enemy lines. I noticed how her piety soared when Papa was around, how she would drag us all to lengthy church vigils, praying in tongues so loud the neighbors would say amen. But I also saw the small, secret phone calls she took in the bathroom, her voice low and urgent. I saw the envelopes of cash she tucked away in her big leather Bible, money Papa gave her for housekeeping, money she clearly wasn't spending on food for me. I started to fight back in the only way I could, through passive resistance. I accidentally broke Tunde's favorite video game cartridge. I mistakenly used Funke's expensive, scented soap to wash the bathroom floor. I salted her egusi soup so heavily it was inedible, claiming I must have confused the salt for sugar. Each act brought down punishment, but the tiny spark of defiance kept me from going out completely. The turning point arrived with the typhoid fever. I felt terribly ill. The heat in my body was like the inside of a furnace, and my bones ached. Madam Kemi refused to take me to the hospital. "It is just malaria," she declared, forcing bitter herbal concoctions down my throat. "Stop being dramatic. Your father's travels are stressful enough." For 3 days, I lay shivering on my thin mattress in the storage room, drifting in and out of consciousness. In my delirium, I saw my mother's face, gentle and sad. I heard her voice, a faint memory from childhood, "NWAM, your chi is strong. Do not let anyone break your spirit." Papa Chidi returned unexpectedly on the 4th day. He found me burning up, barely coherent. The rage on his face, a sight I had never seen, was terrifying and beautiful. He ignored Madam Kemi's protest, bundled me into the car, and sped to the hospital. The doctor was furious. "This boy has severe typhoid." Another day or two, and we would be talking about organ damage. What kind of mother are you? I saw the crack then, in the fortress of my father's trust. He looked from my gaunt, reportage form to Madam Kemi's perfectly made-up face, now arranged in an expression of contrite worry. He never said it was so serious, Chidi. I was giving him medicine. I'm not a doctor, she wailed. But the seed of doubt was planted. Papa stayed by my bedside for 2 days. He didn't say much, but he held my hand, his eyes clouded with a new, painful awareness. When I returned home, weak but clear-headed, the dynamics had shifted subtly. Papa started asking more questions. Ekene, did you eat? Ekene, why is your uniform so old? Madam Kemi, sensing the change, doubled her performances of affection towards me in his presence, which made my skin crawl. The hypocrisy was a new layer of torture. The final battle, the great war for my father's soul and my future, was ignited by my JSS 3 promotion exam fee. It was a substantial amount. Papa Chidi gave the money to Madam Kemi to take to my new school. A week later, the school sent a note home, my fees were still unpaid, and I would be barred from the exams. Papa was confused. Kemi, I gave you the money. What happened? Madam Kemi's eyes instantly welled with tears. She fell to her knees, a dramatic gesture that stunned even Tunde and Funke. Chidi. Forgive me. That boy, that wicked boy. She pointed a trembling finger at me. He stole the money from my purse. I did not want to tell you, to break your heart. I saw him. He took it to buy those expensive football boots he has been begging for. The audacity of the lie stole my breath. Papa turned to me, his face a storm of disappointment. Ekene. Is this true? I was silent for a long moment, the weight of all the months of abuse pressing down on me. Then, I looked not at my father, but at my stepmother. The fear was gone, burned away by the fever and the injustice. In its place was a cold, clear certainty. Papa, I said, my voice stronger than it had been in a year. I did not steal the money. But I know where it is. Madam Kemi's weeping stopped abruptly. You see. He is adding lies to theft. Where? Papa asked, his voice low. Check inside her big Bible, the one with the gold cross. Look in the book of Psalms. The color drained from Madam Kemi's face. How dare you? Desecrating the holy book with your accusations. But Papa Chidi was already moving. He walked to their bedroom, with Madam Kemi scrambling after him, pleading. He emerged moments later, his expression granite. In his hand was the Bible, and tucked between the pages of Psalms, was an envelope. He opened it. It was filled with naira notes. The exact amount of my school fees, plus more. The silence that followed was louder than any scream. Madam Kemi started a fresh torrent of explanations. She was saving it, she forgot, it was a test for me. But the web had unraveled. Papa did not shout. He looked at his wife, then at her children, who were cowering in the corner, and finally at me, really looked at me, seeing the two big clothes, the shadows under my eyes, the old scar on my cheek from the scrubbing brush. Pack your things, he said to Madam Kemi, his voice trembling with a contained fury. All of you. Get out of my house. Now. The aftermath was not a single event, but a slow, painful healing. The divorce proceedings were ugly. Madam Kemi fought like a cornered animal, claiming rights to the property, spreading vile rumors about my father. But the truth, once out, had a force of its own. Neighbors who had heard her screams at me came forward. The teacher, Mrs. Okonkwo, testified about my drastic change. The doctor confirmed the neglect. Papa Chidi was shattered, consumed by guilt. My son, he would weep, holding me. I was blind. Forgive me. We had to learn to be a family again, just the two of us, navigating the wreckage. He sold the Surulere flat, the place tainted by too many bad memories, and we moved to a smaller, brighter house in Ikeja. He cut down on his travels. He learned to cook simple meals, burn jollof and lumpy EBA that we ate together, laughing through the mistakes. The trauma did not vanish. I had nightmares. I flinched at sudden movements. Trust was a fragile thing. But slowly, with therapy and my father's steadfast, repentant love, the light returned to my life. My grades improved. I made a few friends. I even joined the school football team. Years later, I am sitting for my university entrance exams. The past is a scar, not an open wound. Papa Chidi is in the living room, praying loudly for my success. I smile as I hear him. The house is peaceful. I learned many lessons from Madam Kemi, though not the ones she intended. I learned that evil often wears a beautiful, pious mask. I learned that silence can be a weapon of the oppressor. But most importantly, I learned that the human spirit, even a child's, is tougher than it looks. It can bend under the weight of wickedness, but with a sliver of truth and a spark of courage, it can straighten again, reaching for the sun. My story is not one of grand revenge, with her struck by lightning or dying in poverty, though I heard she moved to Port Harcourt with a much older man. My victory was quieter. It was in my father's eyes when he truly saw me. It was in the peaceful sleep I now enjoy. It was in the reclaiming of my own name, Ekene, which means praise. I had survived the leopard in our home. And for that I give praise.